Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to welcome the representatives from both Air Canada and WestJet to our committee today. I have a great deal of respect for both of your companies, and I'm certainly looking forward to flying your airlines a lot more in the future as we come out of this pandemic. Um, so my questions for both groups of witnesses. On Tuesday, the committee heard testimony that because of all the challenges facing the aviation sector, it may take anywhere from 5 to 7 years for air travel to recover. I found this to be very surprising since the vaccine rollout is to be completed by the end of this year. So are the witnesses from Air Canada and WestJet expecting air travel recovery to take 5 to 7 years, or are you expecting the timeline to be somewhat shorter than that?
We'll go to Mr. Gibbons first.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Kram, for your words, and thank you to your constituents for making us the #1 airline in Saskatchewan year over year. Look, if you had asked us in mid-March last year, where would we be on February 4th, 2021, it would not be where we are today. So, lots of people are throwing out a lot of prognostications, but you've nailed it, and that is that without a clear operating, without better understanding of what the operational realities will be for our company, it's really difficult to say. And that's why we're pushing so hard for a safe restart plan, and to understand how the government looks at vaccines and looks at testing. You brought up the issue of vaccines. We're watching very carefully and engaged very constructively with the government, because we need to understand what's the correlation between vaccination and mobility for Canadians. The retired couple that lives in your constituency that hasn't seen their grandkids in a year, is it their expectation that they'll be able to go see them after they're vaccinated? Does vaccination greenlight you to travel this country? What is an acceptable vaccine rate that would allow for such travel? These are the key questions I think we would recommend that you put in your report, that we recommend you ask public health officials for clarity on. And again, for public health purposes, not for business purposes. It's that certainty and reassurance that I think all of us want and seek. But I think until we have better certainty around vaccines and what it means for the critical travel and tourism sector, it's difficult to answer your question. But it's safe to say that it will take years. But we can start here in Canada this summer.
Mr. Rowe.
So thank you.
Oui, juste pour ajouter sur ce que mon...
Only to add on what my colleagues said, obviously it's important to have a good plan. If we look at the IATA forecast, we're talking about a horizon of 3 to 5 years. What's important is that since we are planning vaccination for the population, we already have a plan to restart safety travels. And this is what is most important. Aviation involves many players. So it's important to have a plan so that the machine starts rolling again.
All right. And again, I would like to hear from both Air Canada and WestJet. In regards to NAV Canada potentially laying off air traffic controllers and closing down air traffic control towers, including the one at the Regina International Airport, when an airport loses its air traffic control tower, does it cause your airline to reevaluate the number and frequency of flights coming into and out of the city?
Start off, Mr. Gibbons. Short answer, please.
Look, we feel for NAV Canada employees. We feel for everyone in our sector who's hurting. That's why we've been pushing the government to resolve their financial issues. On the strict element of your question, we fly to airports that have towers. We fly to airports that don't have towers. We fly to airports that have towers part of the day and not other parts of the day. So, it's not a straight line. And also with respect to the safety of those decisions, that really is between NAV Canada and their regulator, but we're aware of the situation in Regina and feel for those employees for sure.
Mr. Rowe.
Oui, pour reprendre les propos de mon collègue, M. Kram.
to come back to what my colleague said, only to add, the loss of a control tower can have an impact on our operations. Obviously, safety is not at stake because there are other safety measures that are in place. So we never play with the safety of our passengers. But for operations, if there's no control tower, the operations become more complex. It means that flights will go towards other airports. So it entails problems for our carriers. I think that we are in a system of user payer. And since we haven't had any users for 1 year, so the costs increase for everyone, difficult decisions have to be made that might jeopardize infrastructure on the long term. This is why measures have to be put in place to preserve our infrastructure and to allow us, the carriers and our employees and all the transportation ecosystem to come back to the pre-pandemic situation we were in.